And just open up here. Hi, everyone. How are you?
Hi.
Hello. I'm
Hi.
going to go ahead and share my screen right here. There you go. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and begin. So happy you're here this afternoon. Let me see if I can get to. You're gonna see my slideshow, my slides on the side, but it is okay. So my name is Norma Godina Silva. So happy that you're here, that you're able to join me. This afternoon, we're gonna be talking about the importance of building relationships in order to empower others to advocate for themselves through language and relationships. So our brain normally has three main questions, and is first one is where am I, right? So uh, we're here, we're part of this great opportunity, very remotely, but we're here. And then your next question, as your brain continues to wonder, is who are all these people? So I'm, so happy that you can see at least people via screen, and what are we going to be doing today. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to who am I. So this is my wonderful family. I'm the mother of four kids. It's my 40-year-old over there in the background, and then I have a set of twins who are 26 years old, and I have my Ileana, who's 30 years of age, and Ileana, Albert, and myself, we're part of UTEP alumni. All three of us graduated from UTEP. I have two great grandchildren. My mother is now 92 years of age. I've been in education for a total of 33 years. I graduated from UTEP back in 1987 and started my teaching career at Isleta Elementary for the Isleta Independent School District. I got a bachelor's and a master's at the University of Texas at El Paso. Yay, go Miners! And I got a PhD in curriculum and instruction out of New Mexico State University. I was employed by Johns Hopkins for a total of 8 years. And from there, I went to Edison Schools, based in New York City. I believe now they're in New Jersey. When my twins enter high school, I decided to stay grounded. So I was hired by Education Service Center Region 19, and I did that for 3.5 years. I was professional development consultant for the region. And the past 10 years, I've been with the International Center for Leadership in Education. So whenever I saw this opportunity of presenting to each and every one of you, I got super excited. So this is what we're gonna be doing today. We're gonna go ahead and talk about the social and emotional side of learning. Whether you are learning as a student or whether you are learning as an employee, we're gonna be focusing on communication and teamwork. The importance of communication and teamwork is part of social emotional learning. We're going to also be talking about the value of collaboration and how through collaboration that enhances our ability to develop our language. And finally, we're going to talk about creating relevant learning environments, whether it's a work environment, whether it's a school environment, but in a way that we value and empower others to articulate their needs, to advocate for themselves, and create their own learning opportunities. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Some online learning tips is definitely use your mute button. And from what I saw, all of you are on mute. And you normally use earphones in order to cut all the noise level around you and to get a better sound. And please silence your phones, even though we're going to be utilizing them. Don't put them away, just silence them. Okay. Awesome. So this is the first assignment that I have for you. I'd like for you to think about 10 minutes. And I have a statement up there that says, it is okay not to be okay. want you to close your eyes for a minute and think about what this statement means to you individually as a person. Because we have been going on since March now, where our lives have just like been up and down, and there has been a lot of insecurity, and there's a lot of, a lot of sad moments for a lot of us, right? But what I want you to keep in mind is that it is okay not to be okay. Okay. So I like to reflect and come connect with your own feelings. Think about how you're feeling right now. How are you doing? Okay. And my plan was to break you into breakout rooms so that you would have an opportunity to talk with other participants. But I think what I like to do is just, open it up in chat. If you can please share with us how you're feeling via chat. Uh, Talk to us. Just put something up there for all of us to discuss and to come to terms with. And how are you doing? Also, what was your purpose of joining this conference? So take about 10 minutes right now to think and reflect and validate whatever it might be that you're feeling. And if you can share with us on chat some of your own feedback, we would really appreciate it. Let this be a very interactive session, even though or you can open up your mics. So we're gonna open up our mics at the end of 10 minutes, but for now, just share on chat and share about how you're feeling at this point in time. I'm gonna be quiet for a minute, at least 5 minutes, to have you think and have you share with us via chat. If you have finished your entry, I welcome you to go down chat, up and down, and just read the wonderful statements being contributed by the rest of the team. Seems like the input has stopped somehow. I want to thank you very much for being open, for being vulnerable to whatever it may be that you're feeling. Some of you are feeling very optimistic. Others of you are feeling lonesome and are struggling at this point in time. What I want you to take away from this presentation is that it is okay not to be okay. I remember when the whole world stopped for me because I'm an education consultant and I travel all over the country. And all of a sudden, I wasn't allowed to go back to the school, and I had to take a plane and come back home. And that's when everything kind of, began to feel a little bit funny. And And one time I turned on the TV and I heard somebody said, hey, you know what? It's okay not to be okay. So thank you very much for sharing that. I'm gonna go ahead and go back and share my screen because I like for you to do one more thing. Okay, where's my screen? I'm gonna minimize this and minimize this. All right. Your next step in this process is I'm gonna ask you to pull out your phones at this point in time. Okay, because this session is about relationships, and relationships matter. And it is so important that we come to terms, first of all, with what we're feeling. Second of all, that we realize that other people may need that pep or that pat on the back or that, reminder that it's okay not to be okay. So what I like for you to do at this point in time is think about 3 people that you care about. And I want you to take time right now to send them a text. If they can receive a text, right? Send them a text and tell them to remember that it is okay not to be okay. You may want to also add a line that says something like, I was thinking about you, or I hope that you're doing fine, or I'm here to support you. So take a couple of minutes, please, and send those 3 texts. Even though this might seem like very minimal, you just don't know how much good will come out of this, because there might be somebody out there that is wanting some kind of validation and confirmation that it is okay not to be okay. So take time and put your ring on, your ringtone, so that we can start hearing whenever people respond to you. You're gonna get the funniest responses for whenever people receive your text. Some of them may say, hey, what's wrong with you? Or are you okay? So take a couple of minutes and send 3 texts to 3 people. Tell them how much you care about them and remind them that it's okay not to be okay. Give me a thumbs up when you've done that. Or maybe perhaps if you can open your mic and say, done. Awesome. Thank you, Roberta.
Get it out.
See you later.
Thank you.
Council 3:30.
Has anybody received a response yet from somebody?
Yes, the person told me that they thought it was for someone else.
Awesome. Well, it just tells you that sometimes people are not used to receiving just text, just or messages, or just because. Anybody else that wants to contribute?
My cousin, she said, excuse me.
I'm sorry, can you repeat it again?
Yes, my cousin, she said, excuse me.
Excuse me. Yeah. So I like to go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
For me, they just said like, why did you think of me? I'm fine. And I was like, okay.
Oh my God. Okay. And you're welcome to respond, say, if nothing else, say, I'm in a workshop and they ask us to do that, but hopefully you don't have to do that. Hopefully you may want to say, like, I was really thinking about you. Before we go on, I like to open it up and find out if anybody wants to share, yeah, openly in front of all of us, the way you're feeling. This is all about building relationships and supporting relationships. Anybody is willing to do that? I take it as a no. Yeah? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move right along. My next slide is the guiding question of what we're gonna be doing today. And I'd like for you to think about this guiding question. And my question to you is, what role do you think that the ability to communicate, what role does it play in meeting our social and our emotional needs? Communication is super, super important. And whenever we talk about the social emotional learning and all the research that has been done on social and emotional learning, communication is one of the key indicators of taking care of that social and that emotional part of us. So keep this guiding question in mind. And what I like to do is to send you to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If we all, I think, at the university level, I know that's where I was first introduced to Maslow's work. And I like for you to take a look at my screen and the different levels of the hierarchy, and tell me, and please open up your mic and share, how do you think, going back to my guiding question, how does the ability to communicate, being able to communicate, what role does it play in this hierarchy? Who's a brave one up there that is wanting to share or willing to share?
I would say psychological needs.
Go ahead, please.
I said psychological needs.
Psychologically, right? It definitely, communication plays a major role in meeting our psychological needs. Can you elaborate as to why? And you can, it doesn't have to be anything. I want you to make this session a very personalized session, like that part of you, like your ability to communicate. And by communicating, I don't mean, I want you to think at a deeper level. How do you feel whenever you're able to convey your needs, to convey your feelings? And how many times we hold back, right, from doing it, either because we can't find the right words, or maybe we weren't brave enough. But psychologically, definitely, can you elaborate on it a little bit more?
I would say, like, to elaborate on it, like my children when they were babies, they're trying to communicate with me that they were hungry or that they wanted their father. And when I acknowledged that and I understood what they needed, the satisfaction that they got, or the smile, or they got what they needed from me.
Yes. So not only at the psychological level, but the physiological level, the basic needs too, right? So when kids are little, we want to encourage them and we want to push them to produce language, because it is through language that we can communicate our needs. So look at that top of the hierarchy. And really and honestly, unless we get over this fear or and I don't know if it's fear, but maybe lack of risk taking. I don't know, or maybe perhaps some of us keep very much to ourselves, like that's me. But I realize that in order to really become self-actualized, I need to be able to to communicate, and I need to be able to defend my point of view, and I need to be able to defend my perspective, and knowing how to go about it and how we communicate the message. So I am going to share with you a personal experience, and I am a poet. So I also write poems. I'm going to share with you one of my poems. Just a little bit of my background. I came to this country at age 12 to learn the American system of everything. I am an immigrant to the United States, and I have been very, very successful in my country, in the US, right? But I wanted to share with you how from the very beginning that we came into the country, how I felt that need to be able to belong, to be able to communicate with others. So here's a poem, and I want you to just begin to make some sense out of it, and definitely open it up. I'm gonna open it up for discussion, but it says homeless on day one. So excitement with my newfound land, the prospect of a new beginning, a better way of living, a better education, my mother said. Quickly shattered at the sight of a storage room full of discarded building materials and no place to stay. We found ourselves homeless on day one. The days at Washington Park were long. The smell of grass still engraved in my brain, rash on my legs, nowhere else to go. Washington Park was our new home. The park taught me many new feelings. The need to belong, the need to be like others. The sound of their voices in the playground pushed my sister Julie and I to invent our own language. All I wanted was to belong. So this is so funny because whenever I tell my story, Julie and I, we started going to the playground, at the swings and so on, the slide, and we would hear all this chatter. But I mean, it was a new language. We didn't know what people were saying. So all of a sudden, my sister Julie and I, we started like interacting with each other and saying, making up our own language. But that was because we wanted to be a part of what was going on. We wanted to belong. So there it is, one of my psychological needs. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I work a lot with English learners, and I'm a teacher. But this presentation is a leadership presentation, and you all being in a role as leaders, you need to continue to provide those opportunities to encourage people to be open about, just advocating for themselves. So I was here, right here. I felt the need to belong. I felt the need to be a part of. So I want to share with you that I've always been puzzled throughout my years. I've been in education 33 years, and I have found that normally students tend to not advocate for themselves. And even though my trajectory was a very successful one, there's been many people, and I work with English learners. ELs in our country are second, third generation Americans, people that have been born and raised in the country, but they have not yet developed whether it be in their language or the English language, it doesn't matter, but just being able to articulate what their needs are, to be able to advocate for themselves and be able to create opportunities for themselves. So what I have found is that successful people in this country, meaning financially successful, that have, they're running big businesses, they don't reinvent the wheel. They go around and ask. They go around asking, hey, how did you do that? Or how, and sometimes the people that we work with may need that little encouragement, because I myself have been one that I am not, despite the success that I have had, I am not one that says, hey, how did you do it? Or let me share it with you. Or can you share with me? We normally tend to stay to ourselves. So I'd like for you to open up your microphone and share with the rest of us, because you are in a leadership conference. And if you're not already a leader, you are certainly preparing yourselves to become leaders. And you're gonna have people that are looking up to you and are gonna follow you. And so you have to encourage them to articulate their needs, to advocate for themselves, because if they don't, they will always log into this, right?
Yeah.
And by doing that, then they're creating opportunities for them. So open up the mic and share with us, what have you experienced personally as far as, how you articulate your needs, or where did you get that encouragement to do it? And how do you advocate for yourself? I want to know that. Can you share with us?
Hello.
Yes.
Hi.
Thank you, Nayeli. Nayeli?
Yes.
Yes, awesome. Thank you.
I think some of the people that help us to share our needs is professors and mentors.
Yeah.
A lot of the times we can be a bit shy about asking for help, be it academically or personally. But really, the professors and mentors and people around us on UTEP are really open and really want to help us out with anything it may be. So I think that we should really listen to them when they say, come to me for this or that. And it'll really help you to be more comfortable in asking for help when you do need it, and it'll help you to get over those hurdles.
Right. You brought up UTEP, and I am going to tell you, I am a product of the university, and I think that we all are at an excellent position whenever we have a smaller scale university compared to the bigger ones where you can get lost in the shuffle, right? But other than that is that personal attention that the professors have. And I'm generalizing, you might find one or two out there that are not really willing, but you said something very important, and that is when they encourage you to come, or whenever they're making themselves available. And sometimes we kind of hold back. What I want to do, Nayeli, based on your feedback, is encourage each and every one of you, take advantage. Go out there and inquire, stay involved, follow. I mean, if they're making themselves available, why not? Go and because whenever a professor gets to know you more on a one-on-one rather than one out of 120 students, you have to, that's what I found worked for me as I was going through my university years, is like, make yourselves out there, put yourselves out there, make yourselves known, go introduce yourself to the professors, go and say, hey, my name is so-and-so, and even if you start a small conversation so that whenever that professor, believe it or not, comes to a grading system, because I was 2 years at UTEP as a university professor, and it's so, whenever you have the face of that student in front of you as you're trying to, accept a late assignment, for example, I know I have that relationship with you. So relationships matter. Yes. Anybody else wants to open up and make a comment? Anindida, right? Yes, did I say it right? Did you open your mic? You want to join us? Everybody's quiet.
Hello, Norma.
Yes, yes.
Hi, this is Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa.
Sometimes as a leader, I tend to be quiet because I like to listen more than I speak.
Yes.
And I've gotten in trouble a few times because I say the wrong things. I embarrass myself. So I try to listen more. What do you think about that?
Okay, so that's a nice segue into my next slide. I'm gonna go ahead and show you this slide. So there's three things that if you're gonna walk away with something from this presentation, I want you to think about these three terms. And these are three simple things that can support our language production and our language acquisition, right? So it is the affective, the first one. The second one is the linguistic, and then the third one is the cognitive. So going based on your question, before we do the second, which is the linguistic, which is whenever we give our input and so on, I want you to get to know people first. And I don't mean take a week or so, but just look at the way people respond, look at the way people um, behave to a certain way. Like say, for example, another example would be like sometimes I go to offices, or maybe whenever you go to your professor, or maybe whenever, start looking around and see if that person has pictures, or if that person has, you know, a special object that he or she has on the desk, so that you can begin to build a relationship with that person based on what that person, you know, what makes that person tick, you know, what, you know, the interest of that person. Because I think that people will be more open to hear your feedback, to hear your suggestions, if you first pay attention to the relationship part of any interaction. I would recommend that you don't hold back, but that, have you heard the term that says it's not the message, but the form of the message? So first of all, being very, and this is part of just being a good, you know, communicating for the purpose of leadership and for the purpose of advocating for ourselves, is not being careful not to say things out. Like it almost takes like a little bit of a quick second to say, to even think to yourself like, okay, if I say that, who's gonna feel uncomfortable and who's gonna feel okay? So it's always important that whenever we state our own point of view, we always validate other people. Like, oh, I see what you're saying, and I understand your point of view. And but let me go ahead and give you a little bit of the way I'm feeling and the way that I think. Maybe perhaps between the two of us, we can come up with a really good idea. Am I making sense? So first, before we actually make a comment, make sure that you are aware, number one, and that's something that we learn very early in life, like who's your audience? And your comment, how uncomfortable is it gonna make people feel? But I'm not saying sacrifice who you are and your point of view. It's just the delivery of the message. Sometimes you can say the very same thing in a different way and people will buy right into it. Am I making sense? So that you don't come out like strong, like people can see it like, oh, so you want me to do this? Do you want me to do this? Right? So as opposed to, hey, that's a great suggestion. So sometimes even just presenting our recommendations as a suggestion, like, what do you think? I've been thinking this. Do you think that that might go with whatever? You know, the important thing is that you make your word be heard, but the way that you do it makes a world of a difference. Please push back, okay? You don't have to go along with what I'm saying. Push back and advocate for yourselves.
Hello, Norma. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, sir.
Uh, I have the problem that in the last couple of years, people is telling me that I talk too much. So they
That
tell
you,
me I talk too much.
uh-huh.
So I'm making an effort now, later in the last couple of years, to try to listen more. That what I express myself about whatever subject is. I do have I don't feel ashamed to be talking about any kind of subject. I don't feel embarrassed about saying anything. But I am working very hard to stay quiet and allow others to say their mind. So I'm learning how to listen. It's something that I did not used to do before. Before I have a track of mine, and I just stick to it, and I will fight that point of view regardless if it was right or wrong. You know. So now I am taking longer in listening others' point of view
Love it.
before I come to my own understanding.
Alec, I want to tell you, first of all, don't feel bad about, that particular skill that you have that you've been working at toning it down, because a lot of us do that. A lot of us want to make our point and want to be the ones, but when you sit back and you listen to people, you learn definitely. And then you learn to see how those ideas come together with yours. And what I tend to find out is that, oh my God, so if I do that and then I have this idea, all of a sudden my idea really is a really good one, right? Because I have added whatever others are saying. So they normally say, be the last one to speak, because by that time you get all of this information and you have, your idea will be more solid. And now you're kind of synthesizing what everybody else was saying, and now you're coming up with a stronger statement. So my hats off to you for continuing to work. It's not unusual for us to be out there trying to make our point, but always remember, the more you listen, the more you learn. Other comments, please.
Yes, Priscilla. Um, my goal is to eventually be a teacher.
Uh-huh.
How do you effectively get more participation from your classrooms? What suggestions do you have as far as getting the students to engage? One of my fears is to be, finally in the classroom and be standing in front and asking that first question and nobody wants to raise their hand. Or if we're learning virtually like we are right now, it's just an awkward silence for minutes on end, and then you're forced to try to pick and choose people to try to break them out of that silence.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see?
Okay, I am going to talk pre-COVID and then I'll address at post-COVID, right? But I started my teaching career 33 years ago, and I was very fortunate to be part of being one of 12 teacher researchers implementing cooperative learning in classrooms. So I'm going to tell you that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because that taught me that I don't have to be the sole presenter in the classroom, especially nowadays that kids, because of technology, Google, and all of those different, the web, sometimes our students know a lot more than we do. And recognizing that is the first step in the right direction. My recommendation to you is that you rely on collaboration. It used to be cooperative learning. Now they call it collaborative learning. And by that, I mean, be very strategic about creating teams in your classroom, because it is a lot easier for a student to open up to 2 or 3 other people than open up to the entire classroom or to entire group of students. So they're more willing to take risks whenever they're in small groups. So as you continue your career in teaching, always remember that kids need to have time to learn to listen, learn to speak, in addition to reading and writing. And the only way that they're gonna learn to listen and to speak is by actually doing it. So when the teacher takes the center of attention in the classroom, or the center is just only one that provides the information, there's very few opportunities for students to do that. My recommendation is that you check into collaborative grouping or cooperative grouping, and you normally put students in teams of 4. Don't put students in teams of 6, or else you're gonna hit a rock wall, because they're gonna engage in their own side conversations. So teams of 4. So it's, you have that first classroom, go ahead and already, and you don't have to keep the students in teams of 4 for the entire period. You can change and move around, but just go in with this idea that you are going to provide time for collaborative conversations among the students. Now, how do you take care of discipline? So you're gonna be very, very strategic who you partner with whom, and the makeup of your cooperative learning teams. That you have, you know, so the first week of school, you might want to attempt it, just put, you know, have students get into groups, but then you start seeing which are the ones that tend to get together. So if they're a lot of chatting, that's gonna create a problem for you. Then after that first week, then create your groups very strategically, very, very purposefully. Look at their test results. Look at, now you had a week to study the dynamics. You probably have identified the ones that have stayed quiet. So then what you do is you do heterogeneous grouping, meaning different abilities. And also there's different languages being represented. If nothing else, Spanish and English. So you're gonna have some ELs, English learners in there. So you wanna have English learners sprinkle throughout the classroom. You wanna have your behavior problems sprinkled throughout the classroom. You wanna have your strengths sprinkled. So in that team of 4, you have to be very strategic about who you put together. Am I making sense?
Oh, yes, ma'am. No, that makes it a lot easier too, because it's a smaller group, and and you're basically leading a guided discussion.
Yes,
Perfect.
sir. And you know what? Pay attention to the level of questions, to where you have open-ended questions, and the students, you give them an open-ended question, one that lends itself to dialogue and everything related to the content, of course, but that rather than yes, no answers. So the more engaged, and make the questions very relevant, questions that they can identify with. The more relevant the questions are, the more willing that they are to engage in conversation. By the way, just a tip, when I discovered cooperative learning, I discovered that whenever I was evaluated as a teacher, you know, the principal walks in and stays there with you for 45 minutes. All of a sudden, the principal was not only looking at me, but all of a sudden the spotlight came onto the kids. So that kind of like, shoo, you know, I don't have to be on the spotlight for whole 45 minutes. Other questions? I'm gonna move down my slide. So I was gonna ask you, you know, in your chat box, if you can just share some words of what you think. I wanna move on to a little bit further. How can you build that effective? The effective has to do with the heart, with the feelings, the affective domain, which was one of the 3 domains that I share with you, and it's the most important one. The affective domain is influenced by emotions. So going back to the question that Nayeli, I think, or somebody else asked me before, like, sometimes I've been criticized about, you know, making a statement that maybe people didn't agree with. Always remember, everyone is influenced by emotions. And so always remember to pay attention to the affective, to how people are feeling in order for you to be very successful and create an environment that is not threatening to anyone. So I want to know from you, what are some ideas of how you can build relationships in your classroom? I'm going to tell you what relationships do. If I have a relationship with someone, like in the case of small cooperative learning groups or collaborative grouping, then I feel safe, I feel motivated, and I feel like I can take risks. Also, it can enhance learning. So you need to put it in place so that students feel safe and therefore making, thinking at a higher level, because sometimes whenever ideas come to us and we think at a higher level and something comes out of our mouth and other people look at us, if the relationship is not there, that's going to kind of signal us, hey, you're doing something wrong, when in reality we're not. So building those relationships are so critical. And most importantly, they encourage language production. And that's what we want. We want our boys and our girls. We want all of you as students to be able to ask questions, to be inquisitive. But remember, it's always the form of the message, okay? So let me go ahead and open up our chat box and how to build relationship ideas. So in chat, make at least one contribution. Now I'm adding one more layer here. This is COVID. And we feel so isolated. And look at us, the way when we planned this session, my plan was not to be in front of a computer and talking to you via camera. Well, the reality is that every single one of our students in public schools, or, for some charter schools, they are doing online learning. So how can you still build a relationship with your students or with others or other students in your classes? How can you build relationships during this COVID time via long distance? So if you can please put some information in chat. I'm going to be looking up to see, just think about it. You don't have to answer right away. I want you to really think about what you could do to reach out to others and build that relationship. I know somebody shared a link. I'm trying to get down to that link. I don't know, maybe it's information that maybe might be useful for us. One of the things that I highly recommend to you right now before we disconnect is if you can just click and highlight the entire chat and then just save it in a document, open up a Word document and save the chat, just in case somebody share ideas that you didn't get to read, or maybe you may want to reach later on. So that's another way that you can utilize technology or the chat box. You can really take a screen, not a screenshot, but highlight, copy and paste so that you can keep a record of all the chatting that took place.
Hi Norma, I was the one who shared the link. This is Edgar with the Student Engagement and Leadership Center.
Yes.
The link is just that students can go ahead and sign in so we can track their attendance.
Got it. Okay, so that link is in chat, and that's the way they're gonna keep track of your attendance. So make sure that you sign in or copy it down or copy and paste so that you can go back to it. Thank you very much for that clarification, Edgar.
Thank you.
I have about 11 minutes. Let me go ahead and see my next slide. There's just a couple of slides that I have for you. And it's just really, I wanted to share, I have my 30-year-old daughter. And just last week, I was with her and she was telling me, Mama, I feel so overwhelmed. I have all this work to do. And she was telling me going on and on and on. And then somebody calls her and it's a colleague of hers in another city, because Ileana works for Kendra Scott. So there was another Kendra Scott employee in another city that does the same kind of work that she does. And she called up and she goes, can you help me out with this? And Ileana, I was really actually timing her. She took 45 minutes from her time to walk this other person through a process on how she could do her presentation better. And whenever she hung up, I said, do you realize you just spent 45 minutes on the phone helping that person? And then she goes, was that long? And I said, yes, ma'am. And then she goes, you know what, Mom? I love helping people. And I have found that if I take care of people, people will take care of you. What a lesson that I learned at this stage in my life from my daughter, because she is just so phenomenal that she didn't mind spending 45 minutes of her time in helping others. And what I mean is taking care of people doesn't mean, go out there and do everything for them. It simply means like, if you have an opportunity to do something for someone else, why not take the time? Because whenever you need that, that feedback, or whenever you need to reach out to someone, you can always feel confident about picking up the phone and calling that person or sending a text or an email. It's just everything that Stephen Covey talks about is like depositing in a savings account with that person, so that whenever you need to make withdrawals, then the savings are there. So go out there and do something special for someone today, tomorrow, whenever you have an opportunity, go out of your way, even if it's a little bit, but it'll come back to you, I promise you. Questions from all of you? You're a very, very quiet audience. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put in my email address. So I have an ebook that I can let you have for free. And then these are the 3 simple things that you need to know to support English learners, especially during COVID time. If you're interested, shoot me an email. There's my email addresses. I have 2 of them. One is same, first portion, Godina Silva without a hyphen, which is my last name. And it's either at yahoo.com or at gmail.com, either one of those addresses. Keep my email addresses. Let's stay connected. If you all are university students, feel free to reach out. I might not have all the answers for you, but I have 33 years ahead of you. So hopefully that'll give you some reassurance that, if I don't have the answer, we will find it together. And I think, Edgar, we're pretty